A massive city lies hidden beneath the Turkish landscape, built not on the surface but deep within the earth. This is Derinkuyu, an ancient metropolis that could house thousands, and its existence shatters the traditional story of early humans as simple cave dwellers. For centuries, our history books have described primitive societies, but these sprawling underground networks tell a completely different tale. By the end of this journey, you will see human history in a radically new light. Why would an entire civilization choose to live in perpetual darkness? And what forgotten engineering secrets did they master to survive? How does a society thrive for generations completely hidden from the sun? What does this hidden chapter of our past reveal about the true nature of human ingenuity? For generations, the people living in this region knew something strange lay beneath their feet. Farmers would watch as their plows uncovered mysterious holes that seemed to lead into a deeper darkness, while children told stories of lost passages beneath the earth. These local whispers were often dismissed as folklore, the stuff of tall tales. The true scale of what lay below remained a secret until one ordinary day in 1963. A local man was simply renovating his home, knocking down a wall to create more space. When the stones gave way, they did not reveal another room, but a void. A cold, damp draft rushed out from a darkness that seemed to have no end. He had accidentally broken into a lost world. Word of the discovery spread, pulling archaeologists from their universities and museums to see this anomaly for themselves. Their initial assumption was that this was a simple cave system, perhaps a small storage area or a temporary refuge. But as they began to clear the debris and map the tunnels, a staggering reality came into focus. This was not a single cave. It was a level of a vast, multi-story city, carved with impossible precision deep into the volcanic rock. They named it Derinkuyu. Each new excavation revealed another layer of sophisticated planning. Long ventilation shafts, some stretching over 100 feet upward, provided a constant supply of fresh air to even the deepest chambers. Ingenious wells tapped into underground water sources, ensuring a supply independent from the world above. They found stables for livestock, spacious communal kitchens, churches, and even wineries. This was not a place of mere survival. It was a designed habitat, a permanent home for an entire community. The sheer complexity of the engineering forces us to ask a difficult question. What kind of profound challenge would compel thousands of people to invest such immense effort into building a life in perpetual darkness? The answer seems to lie in a perfect storm of necessities, a combination of environmental pressures and societal fears that made the world below ground safer than the world above. The stone doors themselves are a marvel of defensive engineering. Picture a massive circular slab of rock, thicker than a person is tall, perfectly balanced within a carved groove. A single person could roll this immense weight into place, sealing a passageway completely, transforming a bustling corridor into an impassable wall. This was the ultimate deadbolt, a final answer to any threat that managed to penetrate the outer maze, and the entire city was a maze by design, a three-dimensional labyrinth carved from solid stone. Corridors twist and turn unexpectedly, ending abruptly in dead ends or opening into chambers that lead only to steep, hidden drops. An invader would find themselves disoriented, trapped in a confusing web of tunnels, while defenders, who knew every inch of the complex, could move swiftly and silently through vertical shafts connecting different levels. This was not a panicked reaction to a single raid. It was the product of a long-term siege mentality, a society that had accepted a startling new normal. For generations, the greatest danger lay not in the wilderness, but in the open sky above. Historians often point to eras of intense regional conflict, like the prolonged struggles between Byzantine and Arab forces, as a possible catalyst. In such times, the surface world became a stage for unpredictable violence. An entire population could not outrun an army on horseback, but they could disappear beneath the earth, closing their stone doors and waiting in safety for weeks or even months. This level of foresight and coordinated effort completely redefines our view of these communities. They were not merely hiding, they were proactively engineering their own survival against overwhelming odds. Their solution reveals a sophisticated understanding of strategy and a collective will to preserve their way of life, no matter the cost. This deliberate retreat from the sun, however, forces us to look beyond human conflict and consider another powerful force that may have driven them underground. But the threat was not always a human one. The very ground they walked on could turn against them. The same volcanic eruptions that created the soft, carvable tuff rock of Cappadocia also made the surface world a place of unpredictable danger. Ash clouds could blot out the sun for weeks, and the earth could tremble without warning. Above ground, life was at the mercy of the elements, with temperatures that could swing from scorching heat to bitter cold in a single day. Below, however, a perfect natural stability awaited. The underground cities maintained a constant, comfortable temperature year-round, a built-in climate control system that required no fuel and never failed. This was not just a refuge from armies, it was a sanctuary from nature itself. The design of these cities reveals a profound understanding of long-term survival. Archaeologists have uncovered vast chambers that functioned as giant pantries, designed to store enough grain, dried goods, and preserved food to feed thousands for months on end. They found complex systems of wine and oil presses, proving that life underground was not just about bare sustenance, but about maintaining a culture, producing the very commodities that defined their way of life. Even livestock were brought below, with designated stables carved into the lower levels, ensuring a supply of milk, meat, and wool. This was a completely self-contained ecosystem, a life support system carved from solid rock. Every resource was managed with meticulous foresight, turning the earth itself into a protective shield. The scale of this planning forces us to expand our very definition of early urban planning. This was not a temporary camp, it was a planned habitat designed for generational resilience. How many hands, over how many years, did it take to carve out this arc of stone? The sheer volume of rock removed to create these spaces is almost beyond comprehension, representing a communal effort that staggers the modern mind. This hidden civilization was not just hiding from the world, they were building a new one beneath it, and their greatest secret may not be the city itself, but the forgotten knowledge of the people who called it home. The true genius of Derinkuyu unfolds not in its sheer scale, but in the intricate logic of its design. Think of it not as a dark hole in the ground, but as a vertical metropolis, a skyscraper built in reverse, descending 18 stories into the earth. Each level was a dedicated district, carefully planned to support a community of up to 20,000 individuals. At its heart lay a central vertical shaft, a kind of main street that plunged downward, connecting the entire city from top to bottom. This was the city's lifeline. Fresh air was drawn down through ingeniously placed ventilation shafts, some reaching over 100 feet deep, ensuring that even those on the lowest floor could breathe easily. The builders possessed a sophisticated, almost intuitive grasp of airflow dynamics, creating a natural circulation system that would not be out of place in a modern building. This was not a dank, suffocating tomb. It was a living, breathing habitat. The specialized spaces found within tell a story of a complex, stratified society. Archaeologists have uncovered not just simple living quarters, but distinct areas like churches for worship, communal kitchens for preparing large meals, and even wineries for producing wine. The presence of a missionary school points to a community that valued education and the passing of knowledge to the next generation. This level of organization shatters the image of a panicked, disorganized mob fleeing for their lives. These were not temporary refugees, they were urban planners of the underworld. They brought their entire culture with them, replicating the functions of a surface town in a subterranean world. The logistics of managing such a space are staggering. How did they coordinate the distribution of food and water across 18 floors? How did they maintain social order and sanitation in such a dense, enclosed environment? The answers lie in a forgotten mastery of engineering that challenges our timeline of human progress. The tools used to carve this wonder from the rock were likely simple, but the knowledge behind their application was profound. The rock they carved is deceptively soft, a volcanic tuff that can be worked like wood, yet the precision of these chambers defies simple explanation. How do you carve a city 18 stories deep without modern tools or blueprints, ensuring the ceiling above you does not collapse under the immense weight of the earth? A common assumption points to simple metal picks and chisels, and while these were certainly used, the sheer consistency and scale of the work suggests something more. The walls are smooth, the corners are sharp, and the corridors align with a geometric certainty that speaks of more than just brute force. Some researchers quietly speculate about a possible lost knowledge, perhaps a technique for temporarily hardening the rock itself to make carving cleaner and safer, a secret that has not survived the centuries. Planning involved a kind of genius we rarely attribute to that era. Before a single pick struck stone, unknown engineers had to solve problems that would challenge modern architects. They had to calculate structural loads to prevent catastrophic collapses, designing support columns and arches that have held fast for millennia. They had to devise a way to remove thousands of tons of excavated rock without leaving a massive, telltale pile on the surface, a logistical puzzle that remains partially unsolved. Water management was another critical feat, ensuring that fresh water reached the inhabitants while waste was channeled away, all within the unyielding confines of solid rock. Perhaps the most telling evidence of their advanced understanding is invisible, the very air they breathed. The ventilation shafts are not just random holes drilled upward. They are strategically aligned with the natural wind patterns of the region, creating a passive airflow system that functioned like a natural lung for the entire city. This demonstrates an empirical, hands-on mastery of physics, a practical knowledge of air pressure and thermal dynamics that allowed them to engineer a comfortable environment deep underground. This was not accidental, it was applied science. This technological prowess implies something profound about its builders, a long-term, generational project. The knowledge required to plan and execute such a feat could not have been held by a single person. It was a sophisticated tradition of engineering, passed down from master to apprentice over decades, perhaps even centuries. This was a society that invested in the future, cultivating specialized skills for a life lived in the deep. It raises a haunting question about the true capabilities of these forgotten people and what other secrets of their world have simply faded from memory. The identity of the master builders remains one of history's most compelling puzzles. While later groups like the Phrygians and early Christians undoubtedly expanded and inhabited these spaces, the initial, staggering act of creation may belong to a far more ancient people. Some researchers point to the Hittites, a Bronze Age power known for their fortified cities, as the original architects. Others dare to suggest the foundations were laid by pre-literate societies, cultures so old they left no written records to claim their incredible achievement. This theory pushes the origins of Derinkuyu back thousands of years earlier than once believed, into a shadowy era we have long considered technologically primitive. The city itself shows evidence of this layered history, with chambers carved in one style later modified and expanded by another culture centuries later. Each new group who discovered the labyrinth recognized its immense value, adding their own innovations to the existing framework. This continuity of use and improvement completely shatters the simplistic idea of a dark age, a period of cultural stagnation. Instead, it reveals a different kind of progress, one that flourished in the Anatolian heartland, far from the famous river valleys of Mesopotamia and Egypt. Here, technological and social complexity was not lost, but simply took a different path, burrowing deep into the earth. The sheer logistics of the construction speak to a society of remarkable organization. To carve a city of this scale required more than just strong arms. It demanded a sophisticated social engine. Someone had to coordinate the labor of hundreds, if not thousands, of workers. Tasks had to be divided with precision, from the initial excavation to the delicate work of carving ventilation shafts and water channels. A system of governance was essential to manage the distribution of resources, maintain sanitation, and resolve conflicts within a closed, pressurized environment. This was not a chaotic scramble for safety. It was a highly disciplined, long-term communal project. The level of social organization needed to sustain such an effort is comparable to that which built the pyramids or the great ziggurats. It forces us to expand our historical gaze beyond the famous empires and shining capitals. The true innovators may have been these lesser-known peoples, whose daily lives and spiritual beliefs were so intimately tied to the world beneath their feet. Their legacy is not inscribed on papyrus or clay tablets, but is carved into the living rock, a testament to a different kind of civilization whose story is only now being unearthed. The design of these cities reveals a society built on absolute interdependence. A single family could not maintain its own air supply or dig its own well in such an environment. Every breath of fresh air and every drop of clean water was the result of a shared, coordinated effort. This created a powerful social contract, an unspoken agreement that the survival of the individual was inextricably linked to the well-being of the whole community. In the constant dim light, surrounded by the hum of quiet activity, every person had a role to play. Enforcing this essential cooperation would have required a clear form of governance, perhaps a council of elders or a system of designated managers who ensured that rules for resource use, waste management, and noise levels were respected by all. The penalty for social discord was not merely inconvenience, but a risk to the entire city's fragile equilibrium. This intense communal living would have forged a powerful, unique cultural identity. Imagine the stories told in the large, shared kitchens, the songs sung in the carved-out churches, the knowledge passed from one generation to the next in the missionary schools. Their entire worldview, their myths, and their understanding of the cosmos would have been shaped by the reality of the stone around them. Their spiritual life was likely deeply connected to the earth that protected them, viewing the ground not just as shelter, but as a sacred, living entity. This suggests their greatest innovation may not have been architectural, but social. They perfected the art of living together under immense pressure, developing a model of community that was as resilient as the rock walls they called home. What lessons about collective survival did they master that we, in our fragmented modern world, have perhaps forgotten? The darkness of the underground was not an absence of light, but a presence of something more. For the people of Derinkuyu, descending into the earth may have been a spiritual homecoming, a return to the sacred womb of the world. This was a realm deeply connected to their understanding of the divine. Throughout the city, crosses are carefully etched into doorframes and chapels are carved directly from the rock, revealing that faith was as essential to their survival as air and water. Their spiritual life was not separate from their daily toil, it was embedded within it. The very act of moving downward, away from the sun and into the earth, could have been a powerful ritual. This symbolic journey mirrored ancient beliefs about descent into the underworld, a process of purification and rebirth. Seeking shelter was not just a physical act, it was a spiritual one, a way to place themselves under the direct protection of chthonic deities, the powerful gods of the subterranean world. This duality of purpose completely redefines our understanding of their society. The line between a defensive corridor and a sacred procession route becomes blurred. A communal kitchen where families gathered to share meals might also have been a space for shared prayers and offerings. Their entire existence underground was a holistic practice where engineering, community, and faith were strands of the same rope. Modern archaeology often separates the practical from the spiritual, but here they are inseparable. The city was not just a fortress, it was a living temple. Every stone they carved, every breath they took in the deep, was an affirmation of a worldview where the physical and metaphysical were one. This integrated perspective challenges us to look at every ancient structure with new eyes, to ask not just how it was built, but what it meant to the souls who called it home. What other hidden ceremonies and silent prayers echoed through these stone halls, infusing a place of refuge with the power of the sacred? The stone corridors of Derinkuyu were not a final destination, but a single chamber in a much larger, hidden heart. These cities formed parts of vast, interconnected networks, with tunnel systems sometimes stretching for kilometers through the deep rock. A person could travel from one entire metropolis to another without ever seeing the light of day. This was more than a collection of shelters, it was a clandestine web, a subterranean highway system built for secrecy and speed. The existence of these long-distance passages implies a level of regional coordination that is truly astounding. Separate communities, potentially separated by miles of open countryside, were physically linked in a shared, secret endeavor. This suggests they were not isolated villages, but functioning nodes in a larger, hidden civilization. Messengers could move between population centers completely unseen by any power on the surface, carrying information or warnings. Vital supplies could be traded, and even small groups could be evacuated from one city to another if a threat became overwhelming. These tunnels were the hidden arteries of an entire culture, pumping life and information beneath the feet of their potential adversaries. This covert infrastructure completely shatters the traditional image of early societies as being territorially bound and openly communicative. It reveals a complex geopolitical landscape, a world where survival depended not just on strong walls, but on secret alliances and hidden lines of escape. The scale of this coordination forces us to reconsider the political sophistication of these peoples. They were not merely hiding from the world, they were actively building a shadow world beneath it, one that operated partly in plain sight and partly in absolute shadow. This makes their eventual, complete abandonment of these engineering marvels one of history's most profound and lingering mysteries. What could have prompted the final, silent exodus from a sanctuary that had protected them for generations? The stone corridors did not fall silent overnight. The Great Abandonment was a slow, quiet process, unfolding over generations rather than a single, dramatic event. By the 10th century, the constant hum of life within these underground metropolises began to fade. The reasons for this gradual exodus remain one of the final, compelling mysteries of these cities. Was it a fundamental shift in the world above that finally made the perpetual darkness less appealing? A gradual change in climate, perhaps, that brought longer periods of stable weather and more reliable harvests on the surface, lessening the threat of famine? Or was it a technological shift in warfare, the development of more advanced fortification techniques for surface castles and towns, that made the extreme solution of living underground seem less necessary? Historians also point to a potential change in the political landscape. The consolidation of power within the Byzantine Empire may have brought a new era of stability to the region, its strengthened borders reducing the constant threat of raids that had once made the subterranean world a permanent necessity. The artifacts left behind tell a clear story. This was not a panicked flight from an immediate danger. It was a deliberate, community-wide decision to slowly return to the sun. Families did not abandon their possessions, they carefully packed them and took their lives back to the surface. This slow departure is profoundly significant. It means the knowledge of these cities, the intricate maps of the tunnels, and the engineering principles behind the ventilation shafts was not lost in a single cataclysm. Instead, that vast body of practical wisdom faded from collective memory over centuries, becoming legend, then myth, and finally, silence. This raises a staggering possibility. If the knowledge of such immense constructions could simply fade away through disuse, what other subterranean marvels, built by even older hands for reasons we cannot yet guess, still lie completely undiscovered beneath our feet, their stone doors still sealed, waiting for their own accidental discovery? The air in these deep chambers was surprisingly fresh, a quiet miracle of ancient engineering. This was the city's silent, beating heart, its sophisticated ventilation and water systems. The lifeblood of the entire metropolis flowed not through pipes but through perfectly carved shafts of rock. These air channels, some stretching over 100 feet upward, were not merely holes punched through to the surface. They were instruments of precision, engineered with specific diameters and calculated angles to perfectly harness the region's natural wind currents and thermal dynamics. As warm, stale air rose from the deep, it created a vacuum that pulled cooler, fresh air downward through other shafts, a self-regulating, passive system that breathed for the city. It functioned like a natural lung, requiring no fuel and no mechanical power, yet it sustained thousands of lives for generations. The same profound understanding was applied to the vital question of water. Deep within the lower levels, master well diggers carved shafts straight down into the hidden water table. These were not open to the surface where an enemy could poison them. They were internal lifelines, ensuring a pure supply safe from surface contamination and entirely independent from the world above. The maintenance of these intricate systems over centuries points to a deep empirical science. This was not guesswork, it was a refined, practical knowledge of hydrogeology and aerodynamics, principles we would only formally name millennia later. This expertise was a sacred trust, likely passed down through oral tradition and rigorous apprenticeship from one generation of engineers to the next. It was a living library of applied physics, carved not in books but in the very minds of the people. The sheer sophistication of this infrastructure forces a humbling question. If a society we consider ancient could achieve such self-sufficiency, what other examples of advanced, sustainable engineering lie forgotten, waiting to be rediscovered in the silent places of the world? The quiet hum of modern technology is now echoing through these ancient halls, revealing secrets the naked eye could never see. Ground-penetrating radar sends invisible pulses deep into the earth, while LiDAR scans from above map the subtlest contours of the landscape. These tools are acting like X-ray vision, showing us that the known cities are far more vast than we ever dared to assume. The map of Derinkuyu is constantly being redrawn, with new chambers, hidden passages, and unexpected connections appearing on the screens of archaeologists. It is as if we are watching the city grow in reverse, its true scale slowly coming into focus after centuries of silence. But the real revelation is not just the expansion of known sites. The data is now hinting at the existence of entire metropolises still lost to history, buried so deep beneath the Anatolian plateau that no surface trace remains. A recent survey near Nevşehir uncovered evidence of a colossal underground complex, one that preliminary estimates suggest could be even larger than Derinkuyu itself. This is not merely another cave system. It appears to be a planned urban center of staggering proportions, waiting for its first excavation. Each of these technological discoveries adds another layer of profound complexity to the story. We are not simply finding more rooms, we are uncovering a hidden geography. The emerging picture is of a region so densely populated underground that the very concept of a singular, isolated city becomes outdated. This was likely a connected realm, a subterranean landscape with its own hidden highways and population centers. This expanding physical map is forcing a dramatic reassessment of time itself. As researchers analyze the deepest, most foundational layers of these newly discovered sites, the evidence increasingly points to origins far older than the Byzantine or even the Roman era. The construction techniques in the lowest levels are different, more archaic, suggesting the first strokes of this underground masterpiece were carved by hands from a much more distant past. This pushes the timeline back, potentially thousands of years earlier, challenging the very framework of how we understand technological and social development in the ancient world. The quiet plateau of Cappadocia holds a secret history, and technology is finally giving that history a voice. What we once called a mystery is now revealing itself to be a civilization. So the quiet stone of Cappadocia is forcing us to rewrite the first chapters of urban history. For generations, the accepted story was clear and linear. The great journey of civilization began around 6,000 years ago in the river valleys of Mesopotamia with the rise of cities like Uruk. This was the cradle, the single point of origin from which all complex society supposedly spread. But the deep, planned levels of Derinkuyu present a monumental challenge to that singular narrative. If the initial construction of this underground metropolis truly dates back to the Hittites in the 2nd millennium BCE, or to an even more shadowy people before them, then we are looking at a completely separate, parallel development of urban complexity. This was not a colony or an imitation of Mesopotamian ideas. It was an indigenous, homegrown civilization that chose a radically different path, building not upward toward the sun, but downward into the protective earth. The implications are staggering. It suggests that the human drive toward complex social organization was not a one-time invention in one lucky location. It was a recurring potential, an innovation that could spark independently in different environments when the conditions were right. The city's very design is proof of this advanced organization. You do not coordinate the labor to carve 18 stories with specialized spaces for worship, food production, and education without a sophisticated social hierarchy and a clear division of labor. This was not a village that slowly grew, it was a city that was meticulously planned from its inception. This realization forces a fundamental shift in perspective. Human history is not a straight, ascending line from simple to complex, with one culture handing the torch to the next. Instead, it appears more like a vast, dark field where different fires of innovation could ignite at different times, some burning brightly before being forgotten, their light only visible now in places like these deep chambers. This underground world compels us to look at other enigmatic sites around the globe with new eyes. The massive stone terraces at Puma Punku, the mysterious alignments of Göbekli Tepe, the lost cities in the Peruvian rainforest. What if these are not bizarre anomalies, but simply other fires, other examples of this recurring human genius for complex society, each one a unique answer to a different set of challenges? The silent, carved city beneath Turkey does not just add a new dot on our historical map. It asks us to redraw the entire map itself, revealing a past that is far more diverse, inventive, and profoundly mysterious than we ever believed. The silent stone of Cappadocia is not a lonely monument. Across the globe, on almost every continent, the earth holds the echoes of similar choices. In the rose-red cliffs of Jordan, the Nabateans carved the magnificent city of Petra, its vast temples and tombs hidden within narrow, defensible gorges, a surface counterpart to the underground world. Far to the east, on China's lowest plateau, generations of people dug down to create entire villages beneath the ground, constructing comfortable courtyard homes in the soft, yielding soil, complete with living quarters and storage spaces, all invisible from the surface. In ancient Persia, engineers solved the problem of desert survival by building vast networks of qanats, gently sloping underground canals that tapped into mountain aqueducts and transported life-giving water for miles without a single drop lost to evaporation. These were not crude tunnels, but feats of precise engineering maintained for centuries. Perhaps one of the most haunting examples lies deep beneath the Mediterranean island of Malta. The Hypogeum of Hal Saflieni is a labyrinthine, three-level subterranean complex carved from solid limestone around 4000 BCE. It was not a city for the living, but a sanctuary and a final resting place for thousands, its architecture mirroring the temples built above ground, a sacred echo in the deep. When we place these sites side by side, a powerful pattern emerges. From Jordan to China to Persia, the motivations are strikingly familiar, a recurring chord in the human symphony. The need for defense from conflict, the search for stable temperatures in harsh climates, and the powerful spiritual pull of the earth itself. Yet each culture imprinted its own unique signature, adapting the concept to their specific world. The Persian qanats are masterpieces of hydraulic engineering, while the Maltese hypogeum is a profound spiritual monument. This is not a story of cultural copying, but of parallel discovery. It reveals a universal human instinct, a shared capacity for radical innovation when faced with extreme challenges. When the surface world became too dangerous, too unpredictable, or too spiritually disconnected, humanity did not simply endure. We chose to reinvent our world, digging deep to find not just shelter, but a new way to be human. The artifacts left behind in these places, from simple pottery to intricate carvings, are not merely discarded objects. They are the quiet signatures of this resilient spirit, a global testament to our ability to thrive in the most unexpected places. The everyday objects tell one story, but it is the silent, enigmatic artifacts that whisper of a deeper mystery. Scattered among the pottery shards and simple stone tools are items that refuse easy classification. On certain walls, archaeologists have found sequences of symbols, geometric shapes, and stylized forms carved with deliberate care. These are not the familiar letters of later alphabets, but something far older and more abstract. Remarkably, some of these markings bear a striking resemblance to the iconography found at Göbekli Tepe, a site that predates the pyramids by a staggering margin. This visual echo across vast distances of time and space suggests a shared symbolic language, a way of seeing the world that has been completely lost to us. What complex ideas were these ancient engineers trying to communicate through these persistent forms? the mystery deepens within a few select chambers, where teams have uncovered objects that defy their traditional toolkit. Unusual, smoothly polished stones of a mineral not native to the immediate area, or small, crudely shaped metallic items whose composition does not match known local ores. Were these objects of ritual significance, powerful talismans used in ceremonies held in the deep dark, or could they hint at a more practical but equally forgotten application, a piece of an unknown technological process? The frustrating and profound absence of written records from the earliest phases of construction means that every one of these anomalies carries immense weight. A single, unexplained symbol is not a curiosity. It is a potential key to unlocking the entire worldview of the people who carved this city from the rock. This forces a quiet revolution in archaeological thinking. Researchers can no longer rely solely on comparing these finds to known historical inventories. They must build new, evidence-based theories from the ground up, piecing together a puzzle whose final image we cannot yet see. This suggests the builders possessed a sophisticated knowledge system, one that may not have been recorded on clay tablets, but was instead preserved in the very layout of their city, in the alignment of their air shafts, and in the silent, stubborn language of these unexplained objects. These perfectly carved ventilation shafts and self-sustaining water systems stand as a quiet challenge to our timeline of history. To explain such mastery, a few researchers have begun to explore a radical question. Could these cities be the legacy of a predecessor civilization, a culture of such antiquity that its name and most of its works have been completely erased by time? The theory suggests that a profound cataclysm, perhaps a rapid climate shift or a period of extreme geological unrest, might have scoured the surface world, leaving only these deeply buried sanctuaries as evidence of their builders. This is not a search for mythical lost continents, but a serious inquiry into the possibility of a forgotten epoch in the human story, a cycle of rise and fall that predates our accepted historical dawn. The mainstream answer, of course, is that known Bronze Age societies like the Hittites possessed far greater capabilities than we have credited them with. This is the core of the debate. We must choose between two equally staggering possibilities. Either we are drastically underestimating the engineering prowess of societies we thought we understood, or we are missing an entire chapter from the book of human history. This controversy pushes archaeology to confront the silent gaps in its own record, the long stretches of time where the story is written not in texts, but only in stone. The purpose of certain enigmatic rooms deep within Derinkuyu fuels this mystery. What if a chamber we have labeled a granary was something else entirely? A space designed for a technology or a social function we can no longer recognize. This debate ultimately isn't about proving one fringe idea over another. It is about embracing a more complex, less linear vision of our past. Human progress may not be a simple upward climb. It might be a story of many flourishes, of cultures that achieved remarkable complexity only to have that knowledge recede, waiting to be rediscovered millennia later. The true lesson of the underground cities may be a lesson in humility, reminding us that the depth of human ingenuity is far greater and far more ancient than we have ever allowed ourselves to believe. Deep within the city's heart, certain chambers were designed not for sleeping or storage, but for the quiet, profound work of learning. These rooms, often identified as schools, present a fascinating puzzle. Their architecture is deliberate, with carefully engineered acoustics that allow a single voice to carry clearly to an assembled group. Raised platforms suggest a designated speaker, while tiered seating implies an attentive audience. This was not a casual gathering spot. It was a formal space dedicated to the transmission of knowledge. What vital lessons echoed off these smooth stone walls? Perhaps it was here that the complex principles of ventilation engineering were taught, the precise angles of air shafts explained to a new generation of builders. Maybe elders recited epic histories and genealogies, ensuring the community's identity remained intact through long periods of isolation. Or these spaces could have served as a council chamber, where the intricate rules governing resource distribution and social order were debated and decided. The very existence of such specialized rooms forces a dramatic shift in our perception. A society under constant threat, living in near total darkness, chose to invest its limited resources and energy not just in physical survival, but in the preservation of its intellect. This commitment to formal education is a hallmark of a sophisticated civilization, one that planned not just for the next season, but for the next century. It reveals a culture with a documented consciousness, a people deeply aware that their greatest asset was not the stone around them, but the knowledge within them. This intellectual richness points to a society that was not merely enduring, but actively building a legacy, making the evidence of how they sustained themselves economically all the more compelling. The stone corridors were not just passages for people but for commerce. Far from being a sealed world, evidence reveals that these underground cities hummed with vibrant economic life. Archaeologists have uncovered specialized chambers that clearly functioned as marketplaces, their floors worn smooth by countless footsteps and their walls lined with carved niches that served as shop fronts. In these rooms, they have found standardized stone weights and carefully balanced scales, the essential tools of fair and regulated trade. The discovery of small, intricately carved seals suggests a system for marking ownership and authenticating goods, pointing to a formalized economy operating in the deep dark. This was not a society merely hoarding supplies for a siege. It was one actively producing and trading. The same underground presses used to make wine and olive oil for the community were likely producing a substantial surplus. This surplus, along with stores of grain and perhaps crafted goods like textiles, became commodities for exchange. The presence of these trade goods indicates a constant, controlled connection to the world above. Essential resources that could not be produced underground, like specific metals for tools or materials for clothing, would have been acquired through these channels. This economic activity completely transforms our understanding of these spaces. A refuge implies a temporary state, a pause from normal life, but a society that establishes a regulated marketplace with its own weights and measures is building for the long term. It is creating a permanent, functioning economy. This forces us to see these underground metropolises not as isolated hideaways, but as integrated components of their regional economy, deeply connected to the surface towns and trade routes they were designed to evade. This duality is astonishing, a society that could seal its doors against the world one day and then open them for peaceful commerce the next. This sophisticated blend of defense and economic vitality is mirrored in another, more personal discovery: the quiet artistic expressions left on the very walls that surrounded this bustling trade. The stone walls themselves speak a silent language. Far from being blank and utilitarian, the corridors and chambers of these underground cities are adorned with a rich gallery of carved art. This is not the monumental art of pharaohs meant to intimidate, but something far more personal. Simple crosses etched near doorways offer a quiet blessing for those who pass. More complex geometric patterns repeat in mesmerizing sequences, their lines carved with a steady, practiced hand. Stylized animal figures like bulls and birds emerge from the rock, their forms both powerful and graceful. Each mark is a deliberate act, a message left for us to decipher. These recurring motifs are likely the clan symbols of the families who lived here, a way of marking territory and identity in the communal dark. They could also be expressions of deep religious belief, or perhaps even a practical record, an astrological calendar tracking the seasons they could no longer see. This art was not reserved for a special temple set apart from daily life. It was woven into the very fabric of their existence, carved onto the walls of their kitchens, their churches, and their sleeping quarters. Symbolism was not an occasional practice, it was a constant companion, a way of reinforcing who they were and what they believed as they moved through their sunless world. For archaeologists, this iconography is a priceless key. By comparing these symbols to those found at other sites, they can trace cultural connections across vast distances and time. A pattern found in Derinkuyu, you might have a cousin carved at Göbekli Tepe, suggesting a shared symbolic language that survived for millennia. This reveals a rich tapestry of thought that flourished completely away from the light of the sun. It proves that their culture was not stunted by their environment, but adapted to it, developing a unique and profound relationship with the world above, one they expressed not in words but in the enduring language of stone. The constant darkness of the underground world presented a challenge deeper than any physical threat, a psychological battle against the gloom. To push back the shadows, they relied on the steady, warm glow of countless oil lamps. The evidence is written on the very ceilings, where patches of ancient soot mark the places where these small flames flickered for generations. Thousands of carved niches in the walls served as permanent lamp stands, creating pockets of light that turned long, intimidating corridors into a constellation of safe, navigable spaces. But their ingenuity did not stop with artificial light. In certain key areas, they carved narrow shafts upward, not for air but for illumination. These light wells acted like fiber optic cables of the ancient world, channeling precious slivers of sunlight from the surface deep into the upper levels. They may have even polished certain stone surfaces to a high sheen, using them as mirrors to bounce and amplify this faint, natural light further into their sunless home, a testament to their understanding that the human spirit needs more than just the bare minimum to survive. Beyond this physical fight for light was a conscious campaign for morale. The very design of the city reveals this priority. They did not carve endless, identical tunnels for sleeping. They created large, open chambers for communal gatherings, spaces where the community could share meals, stories, and simply be together, countering the isolation that perpetual darkness could foster. The churches and carved crosses provided a framework of faith and meaning, offering solace and a sense of order in a world devoid of natural cycles. The art on the walls was not mere decoration. It was a declaration of identity and hope, a way to beautify their environment and remind themselves of who they were. This profound attention to psychological well-being reveals a society that understood its own human needs on a deep, almost biological level. They knew that to endure the dark, they had to actively cultivate the light within, building a community so resilient that it could not just exist but truly live in a world without a sun. The stone itself seems to listen. In the deepest chambers of these underground cities, a whisper does not fade, it travels. A word spoken softly in one of the vast central halls can be heard with perfect clarity dozens of meters away, as if the speaker were standing right beside you. This is not a happy accident of geology. The smooth, curved surfaces of certain rooms and the specific angles of connecting corridors appear to have been carved to manipulate sound itself, creating a natural amplification system that defies the silence of the deep earth. The practical applications of such a design are immediately obvious. In a city of 20,000 people spread across 18 levels, how do you coordinate movement or sound an alarm without creating a panicked roar? The answer may have been whispered along these engineered pathways. A leader could address a large gathering from a single point without straining their voice, or a warning could be passed swiftly and clearly from the highest level down to the very lowest, all without shouting. This represents a breathtaking level of environmental control, moving beyond the management of air and water to the very management of information itself. Yet the purpose of this acoustic mastery likely reached far beyond the practical. Imagine a religious ceremony in one of the larger carved churches. A single chant, a rhythmic prayer, or the haunting melody of a sacred song would not just be heard, it would be felt. The sound would fill the entire space, washing over the assembled community, vibrating through the stone under their feet and the air in their lungs. This would create an immersive, overwhelming sensory experience, a way to use the architecture itself to elevate a ritual and connect the participants to something larger than themselves. The builders were not just shaping rock, they were shaping experience. They understood that to create a truly livable world in the dark, they had to engage more than just the sense of sight. They engineered for the ear, crafting a soundscape that could either facilitate crisp, efficient communication or build a powerful, communal atmosphere of reverence and shared identity. This hidden layer of sensory design forces a profound question. If they possessed such a sophisticated understanding of acoustics, what other sensory elements did they control with similar intention? Was the unique, cool scent of the earth, or the constant, comforting temperature, also part of a carefully managed environment designed not just for survival, but for the well-being of the human spirit? The long-term health of a community living in perpetual darkness seems like it should be an insurmountable challenge, yet the skeletal evidence tells a different, more hopeful story. Studies of remains from these regions reveal the expected signs of hardship common to all ancient peoples, but they show no unique, widespread illnesses that can be traced directly to their subterranean lifestyle. This absence of evidence is itself a powerful clue. We might have expected to find clear markers of chronic vitamin D deficiency from a life without sunlight, or pervasive respiratory issues from stagnant, recirculated air. But these conditions are strikingly rare. The city's magnificent ventilation system was the first line of defense, its constant, passive exchange ensuring the air never grew foul or toxic. This was not just an engineering marvel, it was a public health system carved from rock. Their diet likely provided the second crucial layer of protection. While they stored vast quantities of food below, they almost certainly continued to cultivate crops on the surface, bringing down grains, fruits, and vegetables that had grown under the sun. This regular intake of surface-grown food would have provided the essential nutrients, including vitamin D, that their bodies could not produce in the dark. What emerges is a picture of a society that mastered a delicate balance. They did not retreat from the surface world entirely, but managed a dual existence, leveraging the safety of the underground while maintaining a lifeline to the nourishing world above. This reveals a sophisticated, holistic understanding of the human body's needs. They practiced a form of ancient preventative medicine, intuitively creating a lifestyle that supported long-term well-being. This was not mere survival, it was a successful biological and cultural adaptation, honed over generations. They learned to thrive in the deep, their very bones bearing quiet witness to a resilience that is as profound as the city they called home. The silent plateau of Cappadocia may hold more secrets than we have yet dared to dream, given that known cities like Derinkuyu were almost always found by pure chance, a simple wall collapsing or a farmer's plow striking stone. It is a statistical certainty that many more remain hidden. Vast stretches of the Anatolian landscape, the rugged Caucasus Mountains, and other volcanic regions across the globe have never had their deep foundations properly scanned. The very earth works to conceal its own treasures. Over centuries, gentle but persistent erosion can pour soil and rock into a once obvious entrance, while seasonal floods carry sediments that pack tightly into every crevice, creating a perfect natural seal. A city entrance that was once a gaping portal can, over generations, become just another unremarkable patch of ground, its secret buried under layers of accumulated time. This is where modern technology becomes our greatest ally in the search. Archaeologists are no longer reliant on luck or local folklore. High-resolution satellite imagery scans the terrain from orbit, identifying subtle anomalies in the soil and vegetation that hint at hollow spaces below. Advanced geophysics, using ground-penetrating radar and electrical resistivity tomography, acts like a pair of eyes for the deep earth, sending signals down and reading the echoes that return, painting a ghostly image of buried walls and empty chambers. These tools are systematically scanning the most promising regions, turning a wide-eyed hope into a targeted, scientific hunt. Each potential signal on a geophysicist's screen is a promise, a chance to rewrite another chapter of our shared history. The next sealed stone door that is opened could reveal a complex even older than Derinkuyu, built by a culture whose name we do not yet know. It might unveil artistic styles or engineering solutions so different that they force us to completely reconsider the technological capabilities of the ancient world. The hunt for these lost worlds is one of archaeology's most tangible and thrilling frontiers. It is a quiet, methodical quest for a hidden part of our collective past, a reminder that the most profound discoveries may not be on distant planets or in deep oceans, but simply lying in wait just a few meters beneath our feet. These silent cities are rewriting the very methods of modern archaeology. The sheer complexity of these subterranean worlds has shattered the old model of a lone archaeologist with a brush and trowel. Today, understanding Derinkuyu requires a symphony of experts, a fusion of fields that would have been unthinkable just a generation ago. Geologists now work alongside historians to read the story in the rock layers, determining the age and stability of the deepest chambers. Engineers analyze the ventilation systems, marveling at the passive principles that kept the air fresh. Climate scientists contribute data on ancient weather patterns, helping to piece together the environmental pressures that may have driven entire populations underground. This is not just a dig site, it is a massive, three-dimensional puzzle, and no single discipline holds all the pieces. The focus of exploration itself has fundamentally shifted. For centuries, archaeology was captivated by the grand surface monuments, the pyramids and temples that reached for the sky. Now, the gaze is turning downward toward what experts are calling the built landscape, the vast, interconnected networks of human construction that lie hidden beneath the soil. This new perspective acknowledges that human history has a profound, vertical dimension, a richness of depth we are only beginning to measure. This paradigm shift brings urgent new challenges, especially in preservation. The same soft, carvable tough rock that made these cities possible also makes them incredibly fragile. The gentle scuff of 1,000 tourist footsteps can erode a carved step that stood for millennia. The vibrations from a nearby construction project can threaten the integrity of an entire level. The very act of revealing these sites to the public exposes them to new dangers, creating a delicate ethical balancing act. How do we share these wonders with the world without loving them to death? How do we study them without causing irreversible harm? The answers are forcing the development of non-invasive technologies like advanced scanning and virtual modeling, allowing us to explore the deepest chambers without ever physically touching the ancient walls. This is more than just an academic exercise, it is a race against time. the lessons we learn from how these ancient societies engineered for resilience, managed scarce resources, and built sustainable communities in extreme environments are directly influencing how we think about our own future. As we face questions of climate adaptation and urban density, the silent stone wisdom of these underground cities offers a startlingly relevant case study in long-term survival. The past is no longer a static record, but a deep well of practical knowledge, and we are only just beginning to lower our bucket. The ancient builders of Derinkuyu were masters of working with their environment, not against it. This fundamental principle is now echoing through the halls of modern architecture and engineering. The very same passive ventilation systems that drew fresh air 100 feet down into the city are being studied today for inspiration. Architects designing the next generation of energy-efficient buildings see these stone air shafts not as ancient relics, but as brilliant, time-tested models of natural climate control. They are exploring how to integrate similar passive systems into skyscrapers and homes, reducing our reliance on powered air conditioning and heating, and slashing energy consumption in the process. The goal is the same as it was thousands of years ago, to create a comfortable living environment using the free and constant forces of nature. This ancient wisdom extends to the very concept of urban planning. The underground cities demonstrate a stunningly effective model of high-density, sustainable living within a completely controlled environment. Urban planners now look at these spaces as a historical case study for future cities on Earth, where space is at a premium, and for potential habitats on other worlds like Mars or the Moon. In these extreme environments, the challenges are eerily familiar. How to create a self-contained, resilient community that can manage its air, water, and waste in a closed loop, shielded from a hostile exterior. The idea of using geology itself as a primary building material is also being re-examined. Instead of manufacturing millions of tons of concrete and steel, why not use the Earth's own mass for natural insulation and structural stability, just as they did? This is not about retreating underground, but about learning from a culture that achieved a profound symbiosis with its surroundings. Their legacy is far more than a historical curiosity. It is a living source of inspiration, a deep well of practical knowledge for solving some of our most pressing contemporary challenges in urban design and resource management. This unique bridge between the deep past and the far future is preserved not in a museum case, but in the enduring, silent logic of the stone itself. Their status as a UNESCO World Heritage Site is a global acknowledgement of their profound importance. This designation means Derinkuyu and the surrounding Cappadocian landscape are recognized as holding value for all of humanity, a treasure that transcends modern borders. Yet this honor comes with a monumental responsibility, a constant and quiet battle against the slow, relentless forces of time. The very softness of the volcanic rock that made the cities possible also makes them incredibly fragile. Each passing year, natural erosion and subtle shifts in the earth threaten the stability of chambers that have stood for millennia. The greatest modern challenge, however, comes from the footsteps of those who come to marvel. The gentle scuff of thousands of visitors can, over time, wear down a carved step that has endured for centuries. The moisture from human breath and the subtle changes in temperature from crowds can slowly degrade ancient wall paintings and carvings. To combat this, conservationists have become technological innovators. They use high-resolution, three-dimensional laser scanning to create perfect digital twins of the entire complex, allowing them to monitor the slightest movement in a wall or ceiling with microscopic precision. This digital map acts as an early warning system, identifying potential structural issues long before they become visible to the naked eye. Access is now carefully managed, with designated pathways and limits on visitor numbers to minimize the human impact on the most sensitive areas. The central challenge is a delicate balancing act: how to share this wonder with the world without loving it to death. This is not a task for a single nation alone. It involves a collaboration of international experts, local community guardians, and government bodies, all united by a shared mission. They are not merely preserving empty stone rooms. They are safeguarding a crucial chapter in the story of human resilience and ingenuity. This global effort frames these cities not just as a national treasure of Turkey, but as a collective inheritance. Every careful scan, every controlled visit, is an act of writing the next line in a story that is far from over, a narrative that continues to be shaped by each new discovery and theory that emerges from the deep. These sprawling underground cities do not stand alone in the ancient world. Their silent, massive stones seem to whisper to other enigmatic sites scattered across the globe, from the towering pillars of Göbekli Tepe to the impossible foundation blocks at Baalbek. Researchers quietly note a profound common thread, a recurring signature of advanced stoneworking and large-scale social organization appearing in what we have long considered the dawn of civilization. The precise, geometric carvings found deep within a Turkish chamber bear a startling resemblance to the iconography etched into the T-shaped pillars of Göbekli Tepe, a site thousands of years older. The logistical mastery required to coordinate the labor for an 18-story underground city echoes the same level of social complexity needed to erect the monumental stone circle. While no direct, proven link like a mapped trade route connects these places, their cumulative presence creates a powerful pattern. They emerge from the fog of prehistory not as isolated flukes, but as possible points on a forgotten network. This does not point to a single, mythical mother culture spreading its influence from a central point. Instead, it suggests a world humming with a different kind of exchange, where fundamental ideas about engineering, astronomy, and community could travel across vast distances through means we do not yet understand. Perhaps knowledge of lever systems and quarrying techniques, or an understanding of celestial cycles, moved along ancient pathways, adapted and perfected by each culture that received it. This possibility reshapes the entire canvas of early human history. It paints a picture of a prehistoric world far more dynamic and interconnected than our textbooks have allowed. A world where innovation was a collective, global project long before the written word. What other echoes of this lost conversation in stone are we only now beginning to hear? These hidden cities force us to redraw the ancient maps of human movement. The immense, permanent nature of these constructions reveals a startling fact: that the communities who built them were not merely passing through. Why would any group pour generations of labor into carving a metropolis from solid rock if they plan to abandon it in a few seasons? This level of investment speaks of a deep, unshakable connection to a specific place, a commitment to a territory that challenges the popular image of endlessly wandering tribes. It suggests that some ancient populations were far more rooted and territorially entrenched than our histories often allow. Their identity was literally set in stone, bound to the very geology of their hidden world. Alternatively, these labyrinthine spaces could represent the final chapter of a long and difficult journey. For groups displaced by conflict or environmental shifts, these cities may have been the ultimate sanctuary, a secure endpoint after years of uncertainty. They were not a temporary camp, but a deliberate, final haven where a culture could regroup, secure in the knowledge that they had reached a place of lasting safety. In either scenario, the existence of Derinkuyu and its cousins complicates the clean, linear story we often tell. The traditional model of hunter-gatherers settling down to become farmers, who then built surface cities, is revealed as far too simplistic. Human settlement strategies were not a single path, but a spectrum of brilliant adaptations. Some cultures flourished in open river valleys, while others, facing different pressures, found their destiny by digging down, proving that the human genius for creating home was, and remains, beautifully diverse. The very rock beneath their feet was a geological gift. This was not the hard, unyielding granite of other regions, but a soft, malleable stone known as volcanic tuff. Formed from the compressed ash of ancient eruptions, this material possessed a unique duality. It was soft enough to be carved with simple bronze or even stone tools, yet upon exposure to air, it would slowly harden, gaining a remarkable durability that has allowed these chambers to stand for millennia. This specific geological condition made Cappadocia the undisputed epicenter of this underground phenomenon. The entire architectural marvel of Derinkuyu was born from this single, fortunate accident of nature. It forces us to consider a profound what-if scenario. If this specific type of rock were more common across the planet, would we find evidence of similar subterranean urbanism on every continent? Would the highlands of Peru or the plains of North America also hide vast, buried cities? This geological constraint highlights a fundamental truth about human progress. Our greatest innovations are never created in a vacuum. They are always a dialogue, a creative partnership between human ingenuity and the local environment. Our ancestors did not simply adapt to the world they found. They looked at a soft, volcanic hillside and saw not an obstacle, but an opportunity. They recognized the potential within the earth itself, transforming what was essentially a volcanic byproduct into the very foundation for a resilient civilization. This creative process of seeing hidden potential in the natural world is a legacy that continues to inspire us today, a reminder that the resources for our most brilliant solutions are often waiting quietly, right beneath our feet. The silent, carved stones of these cities offer a final, profound lesson in the nature of human strength. When confronted with challenges that threatened their very existence, these communities did not simply retreat in fear. They responded with a breathtaking act of collective creation, engineering a solution of staggering scale and complexity deep within the earth. This was not a surrender to darkness, but a defiant act of building a new kind of light. Their legacy is a masterclass in resilience, proving that our most vital resources in any crisis are not material but social, the shared knowledge of a community, the foresight of careful planning, and the unbreakable will to preserve a way of life. They found profound opportunity in the heart of adversity, transforming a defensive necessity into a sophisticated habitat that sustained generations. This hidden chapter of our history serves as a powerful reminder that the human spirit possesses an incredible capacity to innovate when pushed to the brink. The story of these cities urges us to look upon the past not as a simple timeline, but as a deep well of ingenuity, filled with societies whose capabilities we are only just beginning to appreciate. Their quiet, enduring presence beneath the Turkish landscape challenges us to reconsider what is possible, reminding us that even when the surface world turns hostile, humanity has always found a way to build a future. Our journey into the earth reveals a human story far deeper than simple cave dwellers. These cities are not historical footnotes, but a testament to a sophisticated, sustainable way of life that thrived for generations. They force us to replace a linear timeline with a complex web of human ingenuity, where diverse cultures found brilliant, parallel answers to the universal challenges of survival. From the defensive maze of Derinkuyu to the sacred spaces of Malta, these structures embody a profound resilience, a mastery of engineering, and a spiritual connection to the world beneath our feet. As we return to the surface, we are left with a humbling realization. The full scope of our past is not yet written in books, but is still buried in the silent stone, waiting. The story is far from complete. What other hidden chapters of human innovation remain sealed in the dark, ready to challenge everything we think we know? Let us know which of these ancient mysteries intrigues you the most in the comments, and subscribe to join us as we continue uncovering the forgotten corners of